Okay, if we're given a tabular function, we want to create a new row to represent a vertical shift. Number one, the first thing we want to do is we want to be able to identify the output row or column, determine the magnitude of the shift, and then add the shift to the value in each output cell, and add a positive value for up or a negative value for down. So for example 2, we're shifting a tabular function vertically. So it says a function f of x is given in a table 2. We want to create a table for the function g of x, which is equal to f of x minus 3. So let's first figure out what do we have here. What we have is an input and an output. So when our input is 2, our output is 1. So that's what we know. We know that f of 2 is going to equal 1. Okay, so now we have g of x, which is going to equal f of x minus 3. Well, if we start with f of 2, we know that g of 2 is going to equal f of 2 minus 3. Well, what does f of 2 equal? Well, we know that the output is equal to 1. And we're going to subtract 3 to get negative 2. So, in our new table, we still have an input of 2, we have an output of 1, but now the output of g of x becomes negative 2. Let's take a look at the next one here. We have an input of 4 and an output of 3. So that means f of 4 is going to equal 3. So if we have g of x, we know it's going to equal f of x minus 3. So if we want to find g of 4, it's going to equal f of 4 minus 3. Well, what does f of 4 equal? Well, that means that f of 4 is the input. What is the output? Well, it is 3. And so therefore, if we take 3 minus 3, we get 0. So now we're going to add another piece to this row. Again, we have an input of 4, an output of 3 for f of x, and g of x gives you an output of 0. Next, we have an input of 6 and an output of 7. So that means f of 6 is going to equal 7. So now using g of x, which is equal to f of x minus 3, we want to find out when g of x, what is the output going to be? Well, we know that it's going to give us f of x minus 3, and f of 6 is 7, so 7 minus 3 gives us 4. So therefore, when the input is 6, for f of x the output was 7, and for g of x we got the output for 4. The last one, we have an input of 8 and an output of 11. So we know that f of 8 is going to equal 11. So let's put that equal sign in there. All right, so we know that g of x is equal to f of x minus 3. We want to find g of 8. So plugging in 8 for x, f of 8 is 11. 11 minus 3 gives us 8. So we now have the last output for g of x is 8. So again, going back to our statement, the formula g of x equals f of x minus 3 tells us that we can find the output values of g by subtracting 3 from the output values of f. And that's how we got those results. Now, as with the earlier vertical shift, notice that the input values stay the same and only the output values change. So again, that's because it's a vertical shift, and if it's a vertical shift, you're going to be changing the outputs, not the inputs.